So it's time for another beginner's guide video for Marvel Future Evolution. In this series of videos we cover everything you need to know about the various different heroes that are available in the game. Now the game is just launched globally, however I have been playing it for the last 2 months or so via the soft launch version. I have all characters at level 100 and that's why I'm able to put out these videos so early. Now in regards to what we will be covering in the video, we start off with an overview of the character in question, so straight away you can get an idea if you actually like the sound of them and you want to find out more. If you do, we then move on to the potential section. This is specific stats that heroes have you can invest in. We have the specializations up next. These can really transform your hero. We then look at some of the more interesting skills for the hero. I don't cover all of them because heroes have 32 skills and it would probably be a separate video on its own, but we look at around about 8 or so of their interesting skills. We then talk about the outfits, battle badges and omega cards that would work nice on the hero in question, and then finishing up we have a few fun build options that we run over as well. Now let's actually jump in here and let's start off then with the overview. So I just realised there in my introduction I was quite rude and I didn't actually introduce the hero we will be showing off today. So it is of course Captain America that we'll have a look at. Now he's a tank brawler support style hero. He's got a very interesting unique mechanic. It's called a vibration gauge, and this allows you to build up that gauge via something known as vibration absorption. That's on select skills, and then you can use vibration release to do additional damage to that particular skill that's got that tag on it. We'll talk about it a lot more when we do get to the skills section. He has an awesome team buff, or he's got an awesome selection of team buffs because you can actually choose one of 4 that you're going for. Through his specializations he has life on hit, which is great for tanking. He's got really pretty high guard break, so he will break the guard pretty frequently on enemies. He has a specialisation when he can convert defence into damage, similar to Spidey, the way Spidey can convert dodge into damage. So it's really amazing if you stack that particular stat. You're gaining survivability but you're gaining damage as well. He has an exceptionally hard hitting ultimate. It really can do pretty amazing damage. I've seen people hitting for over 1.5 million with this ultimate. I will say that in regards to downsides, he can be slow to level, so unless you're actually playing him as your main character, I wouldn't actually level him first. If he's going to be an alt, then take your time before you do actually level him up. Also, as a melee character, it can take a while before you can go in and start alting your blitz and your raids and so on. But once you actually get him geared up, then you can just face tank enemies all day and just hit auto and just leave your blitz and your raids to do their thing. But that's a quick overview of him. Let's now talk about the potential that's available on him. Potential then is specific stats that heroes can actually spec into. Now by the time you hit level 100 you only have about enough currency to fill out about a third of this tree, so you do have to be careful where you actually invest your stats. Now with all these videos, what I've actually done is I've took the in-game UI and the various different pages and I've condensed it into one infographic. So let's jump over to the infographic for the potential for him. So this infographic then, I broke everything down, but the important part's really down the bottom. It's the total. So you can see you've got a set amount of attack, defense and hit points. All heroes will have access to that. I would say make a beeline for each of these 3 stats. They will all work really great on Cap. You've then got more specific stats or more specific buffs down the bottom that are more tailored towards the hero. None of these I would really say are worth going for that heavily. Definitely go for attack, defense and hit points first. But the 3 ones you've got hit point recovery. Now I tested this out, so in and out of combat, if you don't have full health, every 10 seconds you'll gain a very small amount of health, and it is really small. Bumping up the hit point recovery on this, it's really not a big difference at all. So I would say in time when you fill out this tree, of course it's worthwhile getting, but before then I wouldn't make it a priority at all. You have debuff resistance. I suppose that can be decent. Cap as a tank, you don't want them getting any form of crowd control on them, so I'd possibly go for this after you've filled out the top 3 stats, and then you've got guard damage decrease as well. Now that can be a decent one, but again it wouldn't be a priority at all. But that's the potential that's available. Let's talk about the specializations now, and he's got some pretty amazing ones here. Specializations then are unlocked at level 70. The currency for upgrading these comes from your raids, so it is time gated and you can only equip 4 of them at a time, but they are exceptionally powerful. Once again we have an infographic with all of them on one screen, so let's jump over to that. We have 3 different trees here: Tactics, Combat and Shield. So we'll start off with the Tactics tree. The first specialisation is called Regroup, so 50% chance to absorb additional 20% of vibration gauge upon using a shield absorption class skill. At this point in the video this still may not make too much sense, but what I'm going to do in the next section, which will probably just be in another 2 or 3 minutes or so, we're going to look at the skills, and we will specifically look at vibration absorption and release skills, and then it will make a lot more sense. But in regards to this specialisation, depending on the build you're running, this could actually be really nice. Now the next one is Willpower, so it increases guard gauge recovery by 45% when guard is broken. That's nice, but it is pretty niche, and you ultimately don't want to get your guard broken in the first instance. You want to be dodging about and so on to prevent that. We then have one called Passion, so this one absorbs 3% of damage dealt to enemy as hit points. This is locked on in Captain America. It doesn't matter if you're running a brawler build or if you're going to run a tank build, this is without a doubt locked in. So let's say you're doing 100,000 damage at one point, which you will be doing on cap. That's 3,000 health that you would get back from that. Really pretty amazing, and it's per hit as well. I can't really see, might have maybe a 1 second internal cooldown, something like that, but yeah, this is amazing for survivability, and it will save you a lot of money on med kits as well, making him a great AFK farmer when you actually have this. The final specialisation in this tree, Unyielding Will. With this, increases hit point recovery rate by 37.5% when hit points are 30% or below. Not worth it at all, because as mentioned, your hit point recovery is every 10 seconds it procs, which is a pretty long duration, and it's a tiny amount it procs for as well, so wouldn't recommend this at all. Looking at the combat tree, we have Vanguard. This converts 20% of defense into attack. This is another must-have on cap, so I would say Passion is a must-have, Vanguard is a must-have as well. Now the fact that it says converts, it doesn't take away your defense at all. You'll keep your defense, but you'll get 20% of that as attack, so you just stack them with defense, make them a better tank, and you'll be getting more damage as a result of it. Really amazing. Next up is Bravery, so increases damage of the first skill used within 6 seconds after using a hand-to-hand class skill by 30%. Potential, depending on where you weave this into your actual rotation, for this to be really strong. What you would look to do, for example, and when we get to the build section I'll probably show this off, but what you would do, for example, is you would build up your vibration absorbing gauge all the way up to 100%, meaning when you do a vibration release skill you'll get an additional 30% damage on it. But before you use that release skill, use a hand-to-hand skill, and then you would get 30% damage from Vibranium release, and then 30% damage from this specialisation as well. So definitely worthwhile looking into. Next up here we have Dominator. This one increases hand-to-hand class skill damage by 20%, so check out your kit, see how many hand-to-hand class skills you're using. If it's around about 3 or more, then it could be worthwhile using this one. We have Spot Weakness next, pretty niche this one, increases damage dealt to bleeding targets by 30%. If you're running a build where you can get bleeds consistency, then 30% really is a nice amount. The final tree here is Shield. We have Charisma, so decreases damage received from nearby targets by 15%. This is really pretty amazing, a flat 15% damage reduction, but bear in mind it's nearby targets, so it won't apply to ranged targets. We then have Battle Preparation, increases defense by 20% for 7 seconds when using a cure. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people and we're not actually sure what a cure is. I think potentially it could maybe be a medkit, and it's just weird translations at some time gone in the game, but this I'm not sure about, I'm not sold about, and if I find out any more information on it, or if you actually know, then feel free to leave a comment below and I'll look to pin that. But the next specialisation, Situation Assessment, decreases duration of debuffs received by 45%. This is really nice from a tank perspective, and it could actually be pretty nice in PvP as well if that's what you're going heavy on. And then finishing up we have Sharp Shield, so increases guard damage by 28% for 10 seconds when using a Vibranium release class skill, cooldown of 15 seconds. It's nice to break guards, but I think there's just better specialisations you can go for. The free ones that are absolutely amazing. You've got Passion for absorbing 3% of damage dealt to enemies. You have Vanguard, converting your defence into attack, and then you have Charisma for that flat damage reduction. 3 of them I would, to be honest, say are locked in, and then from there you're looking for one more to actually pick there. But that's the specialisations. Let's have a look at some of his more interesting skills now. For the skills then, heroes have access to 32 in total. I'm not going to cover all of them because that would be a video on its own. What I've done is just selected an interesting skill to give you an idea of how Cap plays from each of the 8 different trees. So it's 8 skills we'll look at, and then from there we'll talk about his ultimate ability as well. But this first tree, there was nothing really that interesting going on to actually select with it, other than the fact there's a knockback in this particular skill. Now we're going to jump down a bit here because I want to get in and actually explain the vibration gauge, so we need to do this in a certain order. So you can see you've got vibration absorption in this skill. It absorbs 20% of vibranium gauge. So when you actually use a skill such as this, to the left of your skills you'll see a little yellow shield pop up, and it has a bar that will fill up. Now once that hits 100%, and it has to be at 100%, you would then use a vibration release skill. If you use it before it's at 100%, the mechanic simply won't work and you'll need to fill the bar up to 100. But with this one here, you've got your vibration gauge up to 100%, you use this ability and you'll deal 30% additional damage when using the vibration gauge. So you want to, I would say, probably just run one vibration release skill so you know when it's actually going to activate, and go for a real hard hitting one, then you're guaranteed to get the additional 30% on it as long as you filled up that gauge first. Also with this you can see there's a bleed on it. So with this, bleed actually decreases hit point recovery by 50% for 7 seconds. You don't have to apply stacks of that or anything like that. As long as you get past the debuff resistance, then you will apply it. Next up we have Unbreakable Will and Shield of Courage. I'm showing this off because it's got a stun for 3 seconds when the skill lands. We then have Sentinel of Liberty. This particular one is a vibration release skill, but it hits really hard. You can see it's over 1100%, so this is the one that I would probably go for in regards to picking one vibration release skill. We have Captain's Leadership up next. Really interesting mechanic here. This one provokes for 6 seconds when the skill lands, and you reduce all damage received, in this instance by a pretty whopping 41.7% for 6 seconds, and that's only at level 7. Now he actually has another really interesting one, so let me quickly select it here. This is Captain's Patience. This is the one I would probably run in most instances. Really amazing. This creates a barrier, in this instance at level 7, equal to 25% of max hit point for 10 seconds. That applies to allies as well, so that's absolutely incredible, and I love when I'm doing a blitz or a raid and I see this buff up on my character. It really does help out. Now we have Reporting for Duty next. This particular one, I was showing it off just for the fact that it's got a knockdown when the skill lands, and also it decreases defense by 15% for 5 seconds when the skill lands as well. You can see that's also a vibration absorption skill. We have our final ability here before we check out the ultimate. This is a hand-to-hand combat skill. It's got a really low cooldown. I'm showing it off because we had that specialization where after you use a hand-to-hand skill you can get the extra 30% damage. So you could use this, and it means every close to 10 seconds or so when you're using an ability you'll get an additional 30% damage on it. So that's a potential option to slot into a build there. But finishing up the skills for him, this is absolutely amazing. I've seen for people hitting for like 1.5 million with this, and imagine it could probably go a lot higher, but it's the ultimate skill. It converts 100% of received damage into additional damage. It will only times it by 2 of the damage received, so you can't like tank Maestro or something like that for example and then reflect 8 million damage on him. That won't work. There is a cap on it, but it's still a pretty high cap. Also with this, it reduces all damage received by 80% for 3 seconds. You need that because you're a bit of a sitting duck when you're using it. You're immune to guard break, and after using it you provoke for 6 seconds when the skill lands and you knock back. So what you want to do, you're going up against the boss, you can see they're about to hit a really hard AoE or a hard one-shot move. You cast this, you'll absorb a ton of the damage. You won't actually take that much damage due to the 80% damage reduction, and then you'll absolutely smash them on the way back. So yeah, I absolutely love this ultimate ability. But that's a selection of some of the skills that are available. Let's talk about the outfits on them now. For your outfits, your end game goal is to work your way towards a regional outfit, but that will take a fair amount of time. Now the regional outfit that I would recommend for Cap would be the Midgardia. It's for the 4-set bonus we would go for this. It's the Vibranium Release class, so your Vibranium Release skills are the ones where you get the additional 30% damage. Add potentially +6 to them when you've maxed out that particular regional set. That's a whole lot more damage you will be doing with this. Now, until you get them, you want to go for one of your non-regional sets. There's none that stand out too much. If I had to select one at a push, or maybe even 2 at a push, I would possibly say The World War II outfit with Sentinel of Liberty, that will give you increased damage while you're levelling up and while you're grinding your regional suit. Or if you want to lean into the buff side of things a bit more with Cap, you can go for the Secret Wars outfit, and that will give you additional skills for Captain's Leadership. That's where you're putting the shield on your allies and so on. That's the outfits anyway. Let's talk about the battle badges now. With the battle badges, the first set that you'll grind for will be your Maestro Blitz set. This will be the easiest one to actually get. It gives you increased super villain damage, so that's really nice, helps you out in your Blitz and your raids and so on. After that, once you start to venture into the Dark Zone, set wise, I think the one I would probably go for on them would be the Universal Domination set. That's the MODOK one. It's giving you increased defense, so it's going to make them tankier, but bear in mind you've got that specialisation when you convert 20% of your defense into attack. So this is giving you some attack, not as much, but it's giving you some attack, and it's giving you a very decent amount of survivability as well. So that's the battle badges, pretty simple section. Let's talk about the Omega cards now. With the Omega cards infographics, then we actually have two different ones. This first one is your free to play set. The second one we'll look at contains special cards you can only actually get from Omega card drops within the store. Very hard to get, so it's more of your whale set. For this one here, taking into account that specialisation we've mentioned a few times about converting defence into attack, the two sets that I'm really drawn towards, firstly you get Hydra Empire 2, so with that your regular stats you're getting on the cards are attack, crit damage, hit points and cooldown decrease, but you can see your set bonuses attack and defence. You've also got New Stark City 2, this one you're gaining hit rate, attack damage, defence, super villain damage, and then your set bonus is defence and hit points there. So there are two potential sets you can go for. Hydra Empire is better for a brawler build, and if you're going for a pure tank build then it would be New Stark City 2. Let's check out the next infographic. So what I've done then with these cards, I've noted how many special cards you actually need to complete the set. So getting one will be difficult, but the sets that require two cards, you're going to need a lot of luck and a lot of money to actually get them. Now, looking at the ones available, if you're going to be running Cap for PvP, but if you really want a PvP character, personally I would say go Spidey or Black Widow, someone along the lines of that. But if you want to run Cap for PvP, your Dark Zone 4 and Dark Zone 5 set could actually work pretty nice. If you want to run a really tanky build on them, you've got the Midgardia 2. You can see the set bonus is defense, then defense again, and then hit points. If you want to go for a more brawler build, you've got Sakaar 4. That one's offering for the set bonus, defense, hit points, and then finally attack. So that's all the Omega cards. Let's finish up now. Fun bit of the video. We talk about some of the builds I've been playing around with. For this section here, I will just preface it by saying that with this being a beginner's guide, this isn't me showing off the best build for Captain America that I've invested thousands of pounds into and I've created spreadsheets to figure out all the skills. This is about looking at a potential fun build option for him based on what we've covered in the video. Now, the one that I've come up with that I'm quite intrigued how it could actually do damage wise, I think it could be pretty amazing. But this one here, we start off with Captain's Leadership. I would say you always want to use this on Cap regardless of your build. The extra health it adds on to your characters is absolutely amazing. It's amazing for allies as well. Now, we're following this up with a shield absorption skill. We're using ones with low cooldown, and I'll tell you the reason for that in just a moment. But we've got a low cooldown shield absorption skill. We then have another low cooldown one. This one has bleed in it as well. So the general idea I'm going for here, if you think back to the specialisations, what I want to do with this setup is fill up the shield gauge as fast as I actually can. Now, when it's filled up, what would happen is you would hopefully have bleed on the enemy, and we had that specialisation where you do additional damage or you do 30% extra damage to an enemy that has bleed. So bear in mind you've got that. You would then use your hand-to-hand combat skill. We had this specialisation that would add on 30% damage as well, and then we finish up with this really hard-hitting vibranium release skill, and you'll be using the Midgardia suit, so you're buffing that as well, and then you get your 30% vibranium release. So you'll get 30% from hand-to-hand, 30% from bleed, and then 30% from vibranium release as well. Potential would be pretty amazing, I think, and I'll just say once again, just to make it explicitly clear before anyone complains about the build and says this wouldn't work, this section is just a bit fun and coming up with different things that could potentially work with them. If you've got a really well decked out Cap, run this setup and let me know how it actually works, because I think it could be really good. But there we go, that is the beginner's guide to everything you need to know for Captain America. So hopefully if you started off the video really not knowing what direction you want to go with in him, you've got a much better idea now. If the video has been helpful, please do take time to hit the like, share and subscribe button. I've done beginner's guides for the other characters, so feel free to check them out as well. And as always, thanks for tuning in for this, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.